Up to the minute, I'm Todd Duplantis. Thanks for joining me here this morning for your HCC news and information. It's Tuesday, April the 28th, and I'm joined this morning by my co-host, Brittany Pacheco, joining me from her house remotely. Good morning, Brittany.
Hey, Todd, good morning. And good morning to everyone joining us on Facebook Live. We appreciate you being here with us this morning. Every morning, Monday through Friday, we're here to give you the latest from HCC. Be sure to like our Facebook page and share this little podcast. Also, head over to our YouTube channel where you can find all of our videos from HCCTV. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be one of the first people to find out the latest from HCC.
Brittany, and we've got some special guests joining us all the way from the San Francisco Bay Area, Dr. Christopher Segler. He's a foot and ankle surgeon, also Doc on the Run. He has his own podcast, and he's a former HCC student. Good morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Thank you for joining us. And we've got a couple of guests we're going to start off with. You know, we've got something very exciting here. We have a networking and cybersecurity program, and we've got Scott Hillman and Trevor Chandler, and you're both here to tell us about a brand new scholarship we have. And let's talk with you. Let's start with you as the principal investigator on the project, Scott. Tell us about the good news on this partnership with Texas A&M University on this fall scholarship program.
Yes. Well, thanks, Todd. It's exciting times for us here at HCC, and it's super exciting to have this opportunity to talk about the grant that Houston Community College received from the National Science Foundation. The name of the grant is oh my God, I can't believe it. The name of the grant is
the Federal CyberCorps Scholarship for Service.
Yes, I'm sorry. Can we start over, Todd? I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. You're good. We're live, and it's without a net, so we can just move forward. Now, this is a scholarship that will go out to outstanding students who are studying cybersecurity. Now, will this involve students starting in HCC and going on to Texas A&M, or are you embedded with instructors on our campuses?
Well, the Scholarship for Service grant is a grant that what we do is we identify students that are going to go to work eventually for a government agency like the NSA, Homeland Security. The NSA and Homeland Security teams are highly involved with our project. They give us advice and guidance, but ultimately we'll select up to 3 students this year that we will award a full scholarship to Texas A&M. They'll receive, once they receive the award, they'll be able to continue in their studies at A&M in cybersecurity, and they'll receive a full ride for their junior and senior year. And in addition to the scholarship, they're gonna receive $25,000 a year in a stipend. And in return for this scholarship opportunity, the students will eventually go to work for a federal agency like the NSA, Homeland Security, CIA, to help protect our critical infrastructure. So the opportunity is where the student gets the full ride, and then they eventually end up working for a government agency. They'll have to be background checked, and that's how they pay back their scholarship. And that's why it's called Scholarship for Service.
Todd, may I add something to what Scott said?
Yeah, Trevor Chandler, if you would jump in. I know before we get to that, I want to give a link as well. The link I think we have is sfs.opm.gov. We're going to have that in the information on this post, so you can get it there as well. Go ahead, Trevor.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add that Scott mentioned that the students would go to work for federal agencies, and that certainly was the body that the focus was placed on initially, but that has been extended to state and local governments as well. And I might add, it's also been extended to tribal governments also. Now, there may not be as much opportunity with tribal governments, but nevertheless, tribal governments are a part of the group where students can go to work for. Scott mentioned that the amount of the scholarship was $25,000, and that certainly is correct for undergraduate students. But I just wanted to add that this program also applies to both master's and PhD education as well. And as you might expect, the stipend amount, the scholarship amount goes up just a little bit. If I remember correctly, it's in the amount of $34,000. Yes, and now for the undergraduate program, the maximum support is up to 3 years, and I forget the number of years for the master's or PhD students, but it probably doesn't extend beyond 3 years for sure. But the primary thing I just wanted to add was that the students have the opportunity to not only work for a federal government agency, but a state, local, and tribal government as well. And I want to emphasize that students that are recipients of the scholarship, they must agree to work after graduation for a government agency. It's not like they can have the nonchalant attitude. Well, I'm done. I don't think I want to go work for a federal government agency. There's some private industry that wants to pay me 2 and 3 times as much. No, this is a commitment that you must honor, and that amount of commitment must be for the same period that's equal in length to the amount of support that you got for the scholarship.
Well, Trevor, this comes at an opportune time for this country as we're all living online. Having access to a virtual world is essential to all of us. And these workers are keeping the country going by keeping our infrastructure and cyber networks open at this time.
Absolutely. Even long before COVID-19, more and more activity was taking place in a virtual sense. And COVID-19 has only added tremendously to that. And if we think about it, what is all responsible for making this possible is software and hardware, and primarily software. So while we may not necessarily think very much about software needing to have cyber security related considerations, software is where the cybersecurity mission must start. And then that will move on to the hardware items that are involved. The devices that we're on right now, whether it's a desktop or a laptop, those devices must take cybersecurity into consideration. The network infrastructure, which is making it possible for the devices that we're on to communicate to each other, those devices must take cybersecurity into consideration.
Trevor Chandler and, of course, Scott Hillman from HCC Southwest. Thanks for joining us here. Both of you are with the Digital Information Technology Center of Excellence. We appreciate your work. Looking forward to seeing as the scholarship with Texas A&M. It's very exciting. And once again, folks, if you're looking to get information on the scholarship, we'll have the web address for you. It is S as in Sam, F as in Frank, S as in Sam, .opm.gov. /. So go ahead and log into that, and we'll post this on our website and social media as well. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to our next guest right now. Dr. Christopher Segler is joining us from the San Francisco Bay Area. Chris, welcome to the show, and tell us what the weather's out there right now.
The weather's always the same out here. It's great. So it's 40s or 50s or overnight, and then we'll go up to the high 70s, low 80s in the afternoon. So it'll be cloudy and overcast this morning. Then it's going to be beautiful, sunny and warm later this afternoon, but no humidity, unlike you guys. So we have it lucky out here, I'd say.
Well, we welcome you to the show for your first visit here. I know you're a long time ago, you're a former HCC student. Tell us about your journey a bit as you've gone through HCC and where you went next and where you are now.
Sure. Yeah. So I always knew I was going to be a physician. And when I started HCC, I went there for 2 years back in the early 90s, did all the prerequisite courses I knew I'd have to have, English, biology, all of the basic first 2-year courses I took at HCC. Then transferred to the University of Houston. And truth be told, although I enjoyed all of my educational experience, I actually think that at HCC, I actually had significantly better and more memorable interactions with the teachers, all the professors. I actually really remember the professors there because the classes were smaller and they were more interactive and they were more approachable than those at the larger, University of Houston setting. And so I really feel fortunate that I got to do the time at HCC, where I really got what I felt like was a very solid base of education leading into all of the remaining pre-medical requirements. Then went to medical school in San Francisco, did that. And then after San Francisco, went on to do a forefoot, rear foot, and ankle reconstructive surgery residency at the University of Utah. Now I'm in private practice many, many years later. I've had a standard practice and now have a bit of a different practice where I specialize in the treatment of runners who are injured I do house calls, I do web consultations, webcam visits like many people are trying to figure out how to do right now in the midst of this crisis. I've been doing that for years because I help runners all over the world. So I've kind of been fortunate to have this transition over many years where I have been able to do phone consultations and webcam consultations instead of just seeing people in a standard clinic setting, which truthfully in this circumstance right now is certainly a benefit because I have many colleagues who have had to either furlough or lay off a huge number of their staff. They're concerned about how they're going to pay their multi-$1,000 a month rent payment when they cannot go into the office and see patients. And obviously not having that overhead gives me a tremendous advantage to actually surviving the crisis and being able to help people through forums like this.
Well, you've been doing as you mentioned, the web consultations and phone consultations for a while. Now it seems to be standard practice because doctors aren't wanting patients to come into the office and you're not getting a chance to visit the patients as much. Do you find that people are more open now to doing the online consultations, and have colleagues come to you to ask you for advice?
Yeah, both of those, yes. The answer is definitely yes. So I've had a number of, interestingly, even right after all of this started, I had some physicians call me saying that they wanted to just figure out how to do exactly what we're talking about right now, which is just communicating with someone via webcam. Obviously, it's really simple, but none of them have ever done it. And so I've had a number of doctors asking me specifically about how to do that. Some of them people I went to medical school with who I've known for 20 years. Who just had never done it. And then at the same time, there's been this really interesting shift where for so many years, because I was doing webcam consults and phone consults and even house calls, I have over and over literally had patients who would call and they would say, well, are you a real doctor? Which truthfully, when something seems very foreign, like they would call and say, well, are you a real doctor? Well, yeah, I went to residency. I'm, board qualified in forefoot, rear foot, reconstructive surgery, whatever. You can look up my credentials if you want. But yes, I'm a real doctor. I'm licensed. I'm board certified. I'm licensed in multiple states. But it's interesting that it seemed like such a foreign concept. I used to have patients call and really wonder, is this a real thing? Is this a real doctor? But I think that this entire shift with so much transformation and shift to the online space and communication via webcam and stuff will actually provide a really and truly useful shift for so many people, because Obviously, if you have any number of maladies and you could just get advice from a physician in a few minutes in literally less time than it would take you to drive to the doctor's office, much less sit in their waiting room, fill out paperwork, sit in another waiting room and all that, that it will really open up a lot of opportunities for patients to actually get care in a much more efficient manner when you really and truly don't need to go in. Obviously, if you have to have a procedure or something, you might need to go in. But many times what we need as patients is just reassurance that we're actually on the right path and we're doing the right thing, or some little shift in what we're actually doing in order to get on the right path. And I think this will open this up for many patients in a way that hasn't happened in the past.
I know a big part of your business is dealing with the elderly and diabetics with foot care and maintenance, and also treatment of toe fungus with lasers. And I know but you haven't been able to do that. And we talked a little bit yesterday about one of your experiences, and there's a reason why. Obviously, you're not able to get into those centers where the elderly are.
That's right. So, for example, yesterday there's a patient who is an elderly patient who's in a care facility in San Francisco. It's a large care facility. But obviously, of all of the people who are most vulnerable to the COVID-19 infection, it is those those who are advanced age, immunocompromised, any comorbidities such as heart disease, cardiovascular disease, pulmonary disease, any of those that actually makes them more frail in terms of their immune system, puts them at enormous risk compared to everyone else. Obviously, a large facility with many, many patients in that category are at extreme risk for not just contracting the illness, but contributing that illness and spreading it to others in the same facility. There was actually a couple of facilities here in the San Francisco Bay Area where there were large outbreaks, including deaths of a number of patients. In fact, one of those facilities, there's a criminal investigation underway because they thought that, perhaps, and I don't know all the details, but what I read about it was that perhaps they had actually asked workers to come in who might have not felt well because they were short-staffed. So potentially, one worker brings COVID-19 into a nursing facility like that, where there are vulnerable patients and the nurses are going from patient to patient all day. One of them gets it, they're asymptomatic, they spread it to others, and next thing you know, there are a bunch of deaths and now criminal charges because of that. Now, yesterday, I was supposed to see a patient who I've seen for many years who's in one of those types of facilities, and she has a private nurse, and actually contacted her private nurse. And I just said, I don't even know what the facility's policy is. And regardless of that, it would be frankly irresponsible for me to come into the facility. Whether it's permitted or not is not the issue. It would be irresponsible for me as a physician to go into that facility where I have the potential of being exposed to someone who's an asymptomatic carrier and then spread it to people within that facility, which frankly puts them at a high risk of death. And so I wouldn't do that. So obviously, and it's interesting, I've had a number of calls from people who say, well, will you come see me? We do a house call for my mom. We do a house call for my grandfather because our podiatrist will not see them right now. And I just explained to them, well, I don't know why you think it would be a good idea for me to come do that for you now, unless it puts you, if you have a condition where you have a limb or life-threatening condition, if you have an infection and you need to be evaluated, then yes, it's worth that risk. But if it's not urgent and it's not something that really is going to put you at risk of long-term trouble, to go into someone's home even and put an elderly person at risk is just an unconscionable disservice, I think, to the community.
Chris, another part of your business is you're an athlete yourself. You've done 15 Ironmans, and you call your practice Doc on the Run because you're an avid runner as well. And you work with a lot of athletes during this time. As people are getting out more, have you seen more athletes coming to you, or has it been less? What's your gauge?
Well, yeah, it's been both. So that it's also been interesting to me because I always think, because I've been doing this a long time, I can predict what is going to transpire, and I'm often wrong. In this case, I actually thought that what would happen is there would just be a huge drop off in people seeking consultations for running injuries because they're not able to go out and do their races. They're told by their coaches. I've had a number of interviews with coaches recently on the Doc on the Run podcast about, what are you doing with your athletes right now if their races are canceled? And most of them, of course, are saying, well, don't go do an entire virtual, marathon or something unless that really is crucially important to you, because you're just going to expend so much energy and require so much recovery time unnecessarily if there's going to be another race on the calendar soon. So many of them have backed off significantly from their activity because of that. But what I haven't anticipated that did happen is that I've had all of these athletes who are confused about what to do now, where they have been scheduled to have maybe a corticosteroid injection in their ankle or something to that effect, and they want a second opinion because they don't really know. I mean, which is fascinating to me, but I've had runners call me and they say, well, my doctor wants me to come in for corticosteroid injection, but I understand corticosteroids can depress your immune system. And if I do that and then I get exposed to COVID-19, I'm concerned that I might actually have a much higher risk of a worse outcome and a worse go of the actual COVID-19 infection if I do that. And so they're trying to seek information about whether or not it's even a good idea to go into the doctor for these kind of procedures, even though they're minor procedures. And I never would have guessed that that would be an issue, but it obviously in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense. These are thoughtful athletes who want to make sure that they're fit and healthy and they're making the best decisions for their health proactively. So I wouldn't have thought about that, but that is part of it. So it's been an interesting thing where I'm getting calls from people that I never would have guessed. But there has been a drop off for sure in the number of people who find, the Achilles tendonitis right before Ironman Texas to be a crucial issue because the race was postponed.
Yeah, the race was postponed. I was going to ask you about that too. They're talking about my wife and I have signed up for the next Ironman in 2021, but they're saying they may have some races in 2020. For being a doctor, seeing what COVID's all about, do you see sporting events or races happening this year logically?
Well, that's a good question. I'm a podiatrist. I'm a sports medicine, foot and ankle guy. I'm not an internal medicine doctor, an epidemiologist or anything else. So I am not really the person to ask about what's going to happen with that. All I know is from the information I've gotten from the sources around me. And one of those is I interviewed a guy, which I think is most instructive. And he was the co-director of the Maui Marathon, which is scheduled for October. Well, I did his interview, and that'll be on the Doc on the Run podcast coming out later this week. But they had just put off that race until April of 2021. So they had taken the Maui Marathon already and anticipated and believed there was very little chance that race would actually go on in October. So they moved it now to the spring. Based on that alone, I think if it's unlikely that many of these races are going to happen, even though many of them have been moved from the spring to the fall. I'm not sure how likely that is. At the same time, it puts athletes in a very difficult position because they have to try to figure out, do you really try to maintain your base and then ramp up again? Or should you really take a more relaxed, almost off-season approach now if it's going to be moved to a year away? And so it has created a lot of difficulty for athletes. But, based on the fact that California more or less just came out yesterday with a notification that the entire San Francisco Bay Area is going to be on, shelter in place shutdown for another full month. I find it hard to believe the races are going to happen this summer and potentially even this fall. It'll just depend on what happens, I think, with states that are already open, Georgia and others that are kind of opening and relaxing all those restraints now. If they don't have a big second wave, I think other states will soon follow to try to get back on track. Obviously, people need to be able to interact and go to work. And if there isn't a big second wave in these states that actually open, I think then it's far more likely that there won't be second waves in other states, but it is possible that there might. It may go well in Georgia, and the governor of California then says, okay, let's reopen in June, and there could be a tremendous second wave. We just won't know. There's no measure on what we're looking at here.
Dr. Christopher Segler, the Doc on the Run, a proud HCC former student. We appreciate you being here on the show. Tell us real fast about where they can find your podcast and where they can find you.
Sure. So it's all docontherun.com. So if you go to docontherun.com, there's a podcast tab there. It is the Doc on the Run podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, whatever platform you happen to listen to. But the Doc on the Run podcast is where I have all of that information, and docontherun.com is where to get a hold of me.
Chris, thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And now we're joined by Brittany Pacheco at her home in her own self-proclaimed nerd room. Brett, welcome back, Brittany.
Hey, Todd, good morning. Yes, I am here in my nerd room and made some updates as promised. I'm not sure if you guys can tell what changes have been made in
Yeah, you got a few updates going on there. I see some new, looks like Harry Potter stuff over your right shoulder. And you got some new things on the other wall as well. So you got a lot of updates. You've been doing some drawing?
Yep, definitely been doing some more painting. The ones behind me, right over here, were actually purchased from a local small business that unfortunately has to close due to the COVID-19 crisis. However, definitely want to support the small business and all of
Yeah.
the work over the years of allowing people to come paint and also be entertained by beverages. I'll just put it that way. So
Oh,
and right over here, these black and white paintings, my niece and I actually painted together. So I'm really
yeah.
happy how everything came out. And this room is officially completely done.
Cool. Well, it's looking good there, Brittany. So you're monitoring social media. What have you noticed today? Were you getting any questions from students?
Just a standard same questions about, where's my refund, that kind of thing. And students, as always, be sure to head over to our HCC homepage where you will be able to find a link for our virtual lobby form. If you have a very specific question that needs to be addressed, very case specific, let's put it that way. So some questions may not be addressed overall, but others that are, as I said, very case specific, you will should actually fill out that virtual lobby form. For other students who just want to know what's going on, what are new policies, head over to the student resources page on our COVID-19 site, and you can get there by going to hccs.edu/COVID-19 students. But enough serious talk, everyone. Let's get to some fun, interesting stuff from student life. They have done a really great job getting in touch with our students during this time, of course, practicing social distancing, but we're HCC, we're going to keep it going. So today, through their celebrating Diversity Awareness Week, they are going to be having a topic being discussed by it's an online workshop with Karen Fleshman. She is an author and an activist and a founder of Racy Conversations. It's a very interesting topic. If you guys are interested in taking part in that, you head over to our Facebook page where you can scroll down, look for that graphic, and you can join them today at noon on this discussion.
There are a lot of things going on with the student life. So you can also find all that information on our HCC Facebook page. Yesterday, they had another one of their epic broadcasts. They do them live every Monday around noon. And those guys really bring it in. They got lots of students commenting, a lot of engagement. So you really got to hand it to them on the job they're doing while we're all in this virtual world.
Absolutely. And also a shout out to Rec Sports and HCC Athletics. They're definitely going out of their way to get student up and moving and getting involved. So if you guys are gamers, because let's face it, at this time between working from home, maybe doing your studies online as well, you guys need a break. So if you're interested in gaming, there's a tournament that's going to be happening on May 1st through the 6th. And tomorrow is the last day to sign up for this. So if you're interested, again, head over to our Facebook page, even our Instagram page, where you'll find this information, sign up, take part. Who knows? You could win. And there's some cool prizes that they've got going on. So if you guys are interested, be sure to sign up and take part in it.
One thing to keep in mind is registration is underway right now, whether you're registering for summer classes, which are going to be online, or fall. That's starting tomorrow, or a week from tomorrow, will be the registration for the fall, and or May the 4th, I should say. May the 4th is registration for the fall. So you want to make sure you register early to get the classes you need. As mentioned, summer courses are online. Fall classes, hopefully back in the buildings then, but we're going to be having fall classes one way or another. Anywhere you could go to register for that, all one website. Brittany, do you know the website?
I most definitely do know that website, Todd. And you can go to hccs.edu/now, where you can find all of our course listings. Really, just everything is there. And if you do have any questions, you all can reach out to us via social media, comments, DMs. We're here for you. We're here to service you and answer any questions that you may have at this time.
And you can also visit the virtual lobby, which is on the HCC homepage, as mentioned earlier, hccs.edu. Scroll to the bottom of the page, and you can click on Virtual Assistance, that tab, and that'll take you to an area where you can fill out the form, and they will answer your questions. Graduation, May the 22nd. It'll be happening online. Website for that, Brittany?
Very simple, Todd, hccs.edu/graduation. So if you guys have any questions, just need some information about our first virtual commencement ceremonies, head over to that website. I'll say it again, hccs.edu/graduation.
Well, that about wraps things up for today. We want to thank our guests for being here. Of course, you heard about a brand new cybersecurity program, a partnership with Texas A&M. We'll have that information on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find all the pertaining links. And thanks to Dr. Christopher Segler, former HCC student, now working in the San Francisco Bay Area, talking to us about how his practice has been affected with COVID-19. Tomorrow on the show, Brittany, we've got Corey Glover. He's the Vice President of Southwest College's Student Government, and he recently won an award. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. It's very exciting, and we're all so very proud of him, and I'd love to hear what he has to say on tomorrow's show. So be sure to join us tomorrow, 10 a.m., Facebook Live, and don't forget to head over to our YouTube channel to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you'll be one of the first to find out the latest from HCC.
He missed last week, but who's going to be here tomorrow?
Who's going to be here tomorrow?
The Chief. Chief Cunningham will be here. HCC Police Chief, back for his Wednesday segment. So make sure you join us tomorrow. Have a great day today, and we will see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on Up to the Minute.